I want to talk about what happens at the age of 25, okay? And, this idea that, I feel like people don't seem to understand, or they seem to think that somehow, like, that you can kind of just, I don't know, like, that you can build strength. And the thing is, that you can just build strength at any age or whatever. As someone who has been through their early 20s, I can say that for most people, or no, for everybody, like, your strongest is going to be kind of between the age of, let's say, 18 through 25. Like, your strongest, right? The strongest that most humans, it's around that age, no more than 25. You're going to, and what I mean by that is that your strength as a human, your strength, your mental abilities, your physical abilities is going to peak and going to be at its maximum at that time. It's the time when you can learn the most. It's the time when you can, like, maybe not learn the most, that might not be correct, but the time when you can input the most. And I say that because it's an interesting time in people's lives, because, like, what are most people doing at that age, right? Like, that's kind of the prime of, in terms of your strength and your physical abilities, right? And so what's crazy, of course, is that you don't have the wisdom, right? And so it's kind of, people say, like, that it is, wait, how does that expression go? Is it, it's wasted on the youth. Oh man, I'm forgetting right now. I better not, like, what is the expression? I'm going to write it out, I guess, if I don't remember, but is it wisdom? Wisdom is wasted on the youth? No, that's not it. All right, well, I'll come up with it. Hopefully I'll write it out. But here's the thing. Okay, so what I really wanted to talk about is this idea that why, and most people in our society, right? Like, what are they doing before the age of 25? Like, few people actually go on an adventure before the age of 25. And what's crazy about that is that, like, I don't even know how to say this. Like that's exactly the time. That's kind of the prime of any human being. And most humans, like most people, what are they doing during those ages, right? Between the ages of 18 and 25, what are they doing? They're going to school, or they're working some entry-level job, right? Or they're going to college. And those are exciting things, don't get me wrong. I mean, I guess to some extent that is kind of an adventure, but those are the prime of your years. And few people, I mean, with the exception of maybe, like, I can only think of, like, celebrities, right? Like these celebrities that are, like, who, by the way, wisely, they I'm talking about, like a celebrity who at the age of 18 is, like, a rock star, and they're already, they're getting all this attention, and they're getting all this money, and they have all this power, and they're doing all this stuff. They're really the only ones who are actually kind of living up to their to what they are. They're being kind of, and when you look at even in stories, like the storylines, like Luke Skywalker or whatever it is, right? They're young, right? Notice how, right? Why isn't Luke Skywalker going to that's the age where he was supposed to go on, right? Like, why isn't he going to college? Why isn't he going to training? Why isn't he going? And these things take years, right? They take years to do. Imagine if Luke Skywalker was just working at a grocery store or something, like, right? That could have been, or he could have been going to college, spending hours just reading stuff and maybe taking classes that, obviously would help them, but, like, it wouldn't make them a millionaire, right? And so the thing is, though, what do we see in the movie, right? We see in Star Wars, right? He goes on an adventure. And it's crazy to me how in our society, we don't seem to, I don't know. It's like most people never really get the full potential of their lives. And I'm not really, obviously, our lives are structured in such a way that, that they don't really have a choice, right? Like most, so I don't even know, right? Like this is kind of relevant, I guess, to this channel, but like, I don't really know what the solution would be, but like in this case, right? What, I guess that like you would have to have a restructuring of our entire economy and way of doing things, because during the prime of people's lives, at a time when they can do anything, whatever they want, they can think and imagine and do whatever they want, and they have the most energy to do it, right? And yet, most of our, sort of at that these young adults, right? What they're doing is they're spending time locked up in a room studying, or they're spending time locked up, and it is an amazing time to learn and consume, actually, because that's exactly what I did. That's partially what I did, but the thing is, so it is a powerful time to learn, and that's what's so great about actually young adults, is that they want to learn, right? They're so eager. That's a good thing to do. But I guess what I'm saying is that I wish that, I don't know. And then, of course, alongside that, of course, you have to work. And so what are they doing? They're working the entry-level jobs, right? The lowest, you're working sort of jobs that, of course, you learn about, the job. But, like, I'm saying that it, in terms of, like, I don't know how to say this. Like, in terms of, like, the potential, I guess, in terms of output and in terms of money, it's not a lot. It's like the lowest. They're getting paid the least, and they're like, for the average, I guess, young adult, it's not sort of this big adventure that it could be. And it's no wonder that we love watching movies where we see a big hero, or we see celebrities who can actually sort of fulfill that, sort of that, that perfect sort of, that perfect scenario of what a life could be, right? Of what we think of a hero's journey, right? And I guess what I'm trying to say is that when we look at the world and how we create adventure and what it means to be our lives, I think I just want to highlight how important it is to have, to appreciate, I guess, or to understand what it means to be at that age, what it means to be between the ages of 18 and 25, because between that age, that's when you are the most powerful as a human. And that's not often appreciated. And I think that, sometimes people think, well, maybe when you're older, and I'm going to tell you something. This is something that, see, a lot of the young people, I mean, the best case scenario are the ones that go to school, right, or start working hard. But the thing, I wish that wasn't the case, though, because the thing is, I mean, even in the best case scenarios, right, what are we saying? We're saying they're either studying, and what are they studying for? For the future. Yeah, but you're wasting your best years of your life. It's kind of studying. It's like, I wish that studying had happened, I don't know, before you turned 18. Like, you know what I mean? And likewise, I wish that if the school, right, the schooling, or the, excuse me, not the schooling, the other scenario, that the good scenario would be the scenario where you save up money, right? So there are a lot of people who in their youth, when they're young adults, they start saving up money. Well, why are they saving up money? Because that's the time when they have the most energy. They save up a lot of money, and then they can, buy a house or whatever. And so that's a good idea, but like, it's like, and I guess that is an adventure, and that is a wise, it's definitely a wise choice, but there's also something kind of sad about that, because you're spending like your most adventurous time doing something that's like, that probably doesn't use the strength, that it doesn't use it to its full potential, I think. And it's certainly boring, right? Like what a way to spend your young adulthood. And then, so then a lot of people might think, well, I mean, those are the best case scenarios, actually, because the worst case scenarios or my opinion, I guess, worst case scenarios would be if like somebody, let's say, if they just partied, or if they, they didn't take anything seriously and so in that case, that's even worse, because in some ways they're causing, in a way, they're causing harm to themselves sometimes, and they don't care that much, right? Like sometimes you see some young people who are, kind of not caring as much, and they think that they're always going to be young, right? There's this feeling that young people have, that young adults have, that sometimes, the college-age kids, they think that, oh, well, we'll always be young. And I'm going to tell you that after the age of 25, it's over. No, and I really mean it. As somebody who has lived through that and who has been through that, I can tell you right now, after the age of 25, it's over. It's downhill from there. Like in every sense. Energy levels and in terms of your ability to focus, to study, believe it or not, your ability to do the mental abilities, and there is a decline. Like you might think, and what I mean by that is, and people might not realize it, but there is your ability to tolerate things, your ability to, do math work. I mean, you could still do math work when you're older, especially if you built up that skill, but it just becomes harder to do. It's like the brain is not as, like, I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't have the same level of, like, it's not willing to endure the pain of, like, the math problem, because it does hurt your head, and you're better able to handle it when you're, a younger adult, when you're better able to handle the sort of the mental issues and the physical, because your body, it's not hard to say. It's because your body is in a state of building itself, right? So at the age of, it's where, you fall and you recover quickly. This applies to athletes. This applies to anything. And so that's why it's different, because as you get older, after the age of 25, it's not the same. Trust me, it is not the same. It doesn't recover the same way. And then as you get older, it just gets worse and worse. And when you think of it in that way, that's something that I think a lot of young adults don't realize. And sometimes they take it for granted. They think that you can just keep doing what you do. And really, it ends after the age of 25. And so, what do you do, right? Like, what does that mean? And like I said, only like few people, I only see like the small percentage of people, like usually celebrities in our society, where they're actually like kind of taking advantage of it. And even then, of course, they don't have the wisdom, right? Because you don't have wisdom. I'm not saying that that's the one thing they don't have, actually. A young adult has pretty much all the advantages except wisdom. They don't know what they're doing, and they don't know what's important and what's crazy, and they don't even know who they are or what they like. Isn't that so sad how it is? But I feel like in life, it's even more complicated, because it's so confusing. Because I don't think that life is meant to be that confusing, to be honest. But it is confusing. And so it's like we overcomplicate it to the point where, where like it should be possible, I feel like, in theory, if our society was more simpler, it should be possible for someone in their 20s to be able to, in their early 20s, to be able to be a fully fledged sort of adult. But because of how complex our society is, it's, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to business, when it comes to all this other stuff that you have to learn, and you can only learn it by doing it. So it puts them at a huge disadvantage. So a young adult, in some ways, they're kind of forced to not be able to function in society. And so that means that's it. It means it's almost like a waste. Like it's, and in theory, they shouldn't be that complicated. I don't think, for example, I don't think that things are supposed to take that long. And I think in sort of simpler times, in more traditional um, let's say, I don't know, in Neolithic or Paleolithic times, or even before in prehistoric times, like it wouldn't have been that, like obviously it was still complex, right? And there are still always going to be benefits and advantages for older people, right? There's something, wisdom will always be something that older people have, absolutely. So in a way, I guess, most people would argue that, well, somebody doesn't actually reach their prime until they're in their 30s, because that's when you start getting a little more wisdom. 30s and 40s, right? There's more wisdom. They've seen generations. They've been through the whole thing. But of course, like I said, yeah, the wisdom is good, but then the body is just not performing. After the age of 25, it's just not performing, and so it's wasted, right? On the wisdom is wasted on the older, if that's how that goes. But when I think of it, I'm bringing this up because when we talk about how people are going to sort of, like what is the solution? Like I don't even know, but I do think that as much as I like college, I sometimes question why college has to happen when it happens. Why can't we either do a better job of educating people so that they are already fully educated, as with the hard math, perhaps before adulthood, or if that's not possible, why not postpone it? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's just hard. Why not postpone it until after the age of 25? Because if you're going to be sitting in a room, it's like you might as well, be older and not, in your prime. But I don't know. But then at the same time, there's also, like I said, there's the slowdown of the mind, right? Like the mind slows down too, believe it or not. Like you can still don't get me wrong. If you are, obviously, if you've trained yourself and you understand something, like anything, whether it's physical abilities or mental, if you, as a young person, as a young adult, or a young person, if you train, that carries over. So everything, any skill that you have carries over to old age. So that's one of the good things about, and it makes it harder for someone to learn it if they didn't learn it during their, when they were younger. And so that's one of the good things, actually. So in a way, it makes sense that you learn, right? That you learn these things as when you are a young adult. But then I guess I just question that if it truly, if the way that people live their lives is truly productive, like if, how much better would it be if, I don't know, if people just had a way to kind of be more, to have, I don't want to say adventure, because see, that to me, that's not wise. You know what I mean? Going on wild adventures. I know that's what, movies sometimes show that, but I don't think that's wise, to be honest with you. I don't think you have to go on an adventure. An adventure doesn't have to involve doing something risky or fighting monsters or something. Not in a literal sense anyway. It's an adventure can be just following your heart, doing what using your intellect and mind to come up with ideas or inventing or creating, and that's really an adventure can be that. And sometimes people don't appreciate, they don't even realize that really, I hope that every young adult kind of feels kind of this need to go on that and to put themselves in a way where they can have a life where they feel like they've had somewhat of an adventure, right? But I don't mean it in a risky way. I mean it in a way where they feel fulfilled and where you do something that you like. And a lot of times, what's happened is that we've kind of taken, I feel like our society kind of has bogged down the young adult, and with a lot of whether it's college or whether it's, or kind of growing, or, a lot of kind of rites of passages that I sometimes think, I mean, obviously it helps them grow and it helps them in their society, but I just wonder if maybe it takes too long, or maybe, I don't know. I wonder if, or maybe, I guess, I mean, at the end of the day, obviously in so many cases, right, in so many, like, I guess what I'm saying is I'm kind of contradicting myself here, because like I said, it is the best time for people to learn. We already established they have the most energy and time to learn then. So in a way, it kind of is the best thing for them to do, but I just wish that, I guess, maybe it didn't take too long, or maybe that I don't know, that maybe there was a way for young adults to be able to show that more often. Do you know what I mean? I mean, oftentimes, and like I said, aside from celebrities, or, even someone like a Mr. Beast, right? Like Mr. Beast is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like in his prime and the highest YouTuber, you know what I mean? The right but again, like it's that age where that's kind of the adventure, right? Mr. Beast experienced the adventure, and it's really what I'm talking about. It's sort of the example of how a young person can do so much, but yet few young adults have that experience, because you kind of spend all years, like it's just weird. You spend all year either working a low wage job, or studying a lot, or whatever it is, or going to work. But the thing is, most people are not going to be millionaires, right? They're not going to be making, so it almost makes it seem like, is it really worth it, right? Like, so you can make, I mean, I guess it's good, but like, it almost feels like, I don't know, it feels like, it feels like that it's still, it feels like not everyone, you kind of have to create your own adventure, I guess is what I'm saying. So if you are, I guess maybe that's kind of the advice, like to any young adult out there, is that you kind of need to create your own adventure, because because otherwise you'll just end up, and like I said, it truly is the prime of your life, and I don't think people realize that, and they don't say that either, because nobody wants to kind of say it, and also the idea that if you are over the age of 25, don't think that you can do the same, or that it's going to be the same as it was, because it isn't, right? As someone who, if you are over the age of 25, it's pretty much, it's not the same anymore. You're not going to be able to perform, and actually you shouldn't expect to perform, but that's why you're going to have to, if you are over the age of 25, you have to do things differently, and you have to slow down, and you have to also, I guess there's just different ways that you're, at that age you'll approach things, but you also need to, I guess that's a different topic, I guess, how an older person would approach it, but having that understanding, I think, is so important, because otherwise you might waste your youth, and also as a young adult, but also if you're over the age of 25, it's good to understand that, so that you don't put yourself in a situation where you think that you can still do the same, but really, I mean, it slows down. Your body definitely slows down. It's not the same anymore, and in every way, and it just doesn't. Your hair doesn't grow as quickly. You don't heal as quickly. Like you will see the changes, and so yeah, it changes how you see things, and it also of course the way you approach life will be different, and the way that it's interesting how it all turns out how it is, I guess, and what it means to go on an adventure. And there's a reason why, like, um, there's a reason why, as as you get older, the way that the kinds of adventures that you can still go on an adventure. Life is still amazing, but it's just going to be different. It's not going to be the same. I that's what I'm saying, I guess, is that it's not the same. There's no way that a 35-year-old is experiencing the same as a 20-year-old, like, or you know what I mean, or a 30-year-old, or even a 26-year-old, the same as an 18. Like, it's not. There's a difference there, and so and I would say that kind of having that understanding will help you in how you're going to approach things, how you approach life, and when I think about what you can do, you really want to. I guess my advice would be that I hope that you're able to make your life into an adventure and kind of take into account who you are and where you are. And I wish that sometimes I feel like sometimes the greater culture doesn't quite acknowledge that. It kind of treats everything like it's the same, or it encourages young people to really lose themselves, kind of. Like, I don't think about it too much, when really, like, it kind of matters, but a lot of times it ends up going to waste. And maybe in some ways that's meant to happen too. Like that happens. I guess because you don't have that wisdom, as a young, it's almost like the young, you end up wasting it. It's almost like it. And so that's kind of the sentiment that I would say most older people have, right? When you talk to older people, usually they'll tell you that they wasted their youth, and that's so weird, right? Like, because it's literally your time to shine, and yet most people are kind of stuck, going to college. And then the college degree is not going to make them a millionaire. They'll get a good job, but not, in our society, it's not that great. So then it's kind of like, I don't know. And even then, it just becomes like, it'll just be a long, like, grind of work. And then it's grind to work. And it's almost, I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking out loud here, but it's still worth it. I'm not saying, I don't know exactly how I would solve it, but I'm just calling out how most of the time, or even if you're working, right, like, they're making the lowest. The people that have the most energy are making the lowest amount of money, and also, but at the same time, they have the least amount of experience, or the least amount of wisdom, I guess, if you want to call it. And so I don't know, it's hard how, and I guess the way our society works, and I don't think experience, obviously it matters to some extent, but in a way it doesn't. I don't know. I still think that someone who lacks experience but has the intellect or intelligence can still sort of succeed. So I don't always think necessarily that experience is always the best, or that just because someone is older that they're always wiser, because the thing is, like, the wisdom and everyone, or what I've noticed anyway, is that everyone is different. Sometimes some people are just born with, like we've heard of how, like, some people are, like, born, like, the kind of tiny professor or whatever they call it. Like, some people are not really born, but some young adults are quite wise, Of course, they can't be wise about everything, but they still have some wisdom. So in a way, I don't know that I agree with that. And I also don't agree that everyone that's older is necessarily wiser either. So it's kind of this weird thing. And it's just kind of how modern society is. But generally speaking, modern society doesn't really, I think I don't know what the solution is. Like, I don't, I really don't, because it's like, I mean, I guess the limitations and constraints are really based on, constraints and resources. So I guess it makes sense that, it's always going to be limited. But my hope is that at least, if you're for young adults, at least that they try to sort of appreciate what you have as a young adult, and to be able to celebrate that youthfulness. And sometimes I feel like they're not always celebrated, or that goes to waste. And I hope it doesn't go to waste. So, and that's why you need the wisdom too, because see, a lot of young adults, they have the strength and but they don't have the wisdom, and so they might do things that are risky that end up hurting you, and then that's bad too, because you can ruin your whole life. So all of that goes into play, and it's not it's not clear cut. So maybe if you're asking me like if there's one thing that you should do, I don't necessarily, because for some people, I mean, I guess if I could go back in time, like, what would I do if I was in my early 20s? Like, it's just so hard to say. I mean, but it's hard to say, because even if I did, like, obviously I'd say, well, I wish I'd saved up more stuff or whatever. And, but then at the same time, I might not have the wisdom that I have today or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, everything is like it's not as simple as you might think it is, because if you, because the ability to, just because you make a lot of money, I doesn't mean that that you know how to use it. You know what I mean? It would have just gone to waste anyway, right? Because you need the wisdom too. And so and the times change so much to the point where, that if, times change so much to the point that, if you don't have the, if you don't have the wisdom, it doesn't matter how well you do, sort of, or how strong you might be, or how much energy you have. So life is all about that. It's all about that. It's all about how everything works together like that. How there's just different combinations, and it's not always clear cut what the answer is. And so I guess I don't know what, the only thing I would say is that if you are to try to have try to appreciate it, at least but then you still need that wisdom, you still need wisdom, meaning you still need to be careful, because that's the thing, it's weird, because because when I say, well, try to have an adventure, that means people are going to start doing crazy things, and that's not what I'm saying, because in fact, I'll tell you, and that's what's crazy about young adult, is that usually it's the more careful, it's better, it's the wiser thing to do is to be careful, believe it or not, is to not be too adventurous. That's why I'm careful to use that word adventure, because I don't like that word, because that word gets misused, and people use it in ways to mean to do something risky, which that's not what I'm talking about. To me, an adventure doesn't necessarily have to be something that, involves doing something that that's risky. I think adventure is more about, or at least not in a physical way anyway. I mean adventure. I mean to go on an adventure in a way that is safe. Then how do you stay safe? Well, that's where the wisdom comes in. That's where you should ask the older people. Older people will have that because they understand how to be careful, how to maintain themselves. Yeah, because otherwise, and that's the thing. And so that's, but but I guess that's a personality thing, I think, because that's going to come with personality. And it's good that most young adults, believe it or not, I actually do have a lot of hope for, because I remember, when you're a young adult, you feel like, there's just a different way of looking at life, and a different way of life feels different. And I remember it, and it feels different than, because, you feel super confident, and you also feel super ready to, to do anything and be anything. And that's a great thing. And I think every young adult should feel that way. But then as you get older, you don't feel like that anymore. It's different. You think about things in a different way. And not only that, but, but it's also important to understand that distinction exists. Because I also feel like a lot of, people don't realize, or they think that, I don't know, they don't realize the differences and how, at the end of the day, I wish that, people would, that the modern world would be more, more open to more open to, I don't know, I guess, or that, I don't know what modern society could do. Like, what could the modern world, because the way that it's structured, it just seems a little, weird, that, that the way that work works, and the way that, power, like it's weird how obviously you need the wisdom. Maybe that's just how it's supposed to be to some extent, but it's not, I don't know, like, because power, obviously, wisdom is important. You need wisdom. So that's something that, comes with age, especially the more kind of worldly wisdom. So that's still an important thing. But of course, as you get older, the body sort of gets tired, and the mind, you can still do complex things, but it's just not able to do the same level of, it's not able to, I guess the body just is not able to put out the same level. So for example, it just, like what it sounds like, you might be able to do, you can still understand sort of math problems, but, a young adult can do like 1,000 math problems or something. And it's, whereas an older person, they can still do the complexity, but just not in the same, not 1,000 times in the same way. Does that make sense? Like, it's the same, but especially if the skill is already there, but then, but the output is not the same. And so, but that, having that understanding will help you sort of appreciate what you have depending on what age you are, but also help you understand like that slowdown is coming. And so, and it's unavoidable. It's just a part of, because the body, I think it starts when you're 30, but the reason why I say 25 is because that's when that's when I felt anyway, the muscles were at its strongest. But it's between the age of 25 and 30. So around 30, I would say. Well, 30 for sure is when, like, that's kind of when old age starts. So like it starts at 25 really, but But at 25 you're still kind of growing, but then at 30, it's I guess from my understanding, and I could I'm not really too much of an expert in this, but like basically your body is sort of in a state of growth up till 25 to 30, and then after 30 it's not in a state of growth anymore. So whatever you have, that's kind of all you have. And so that means that apparently the muscle, the bones, and everything just don't grow the same anymore. So so you kind of start shrinking in a way. Like it actually, the muscles are not as, so and that's normal. So understanding that helps you to, I think, appreciate where you are and also be able to, make the choices that fit you. I guess the only advice that I would say, it's hard for me to even give advice, but I would say here's my advice. How about this? Just do what you want to do, just kind of, take I would recommend being wise and not doing things that are physically risky, that where you can get hurt. But I'm saying, like, live the life that and doing things that you enjoy, because at the end of the day, forget about what, most people do, or unless you want to do it, but forget about, and just think of the possibilities and pay attention to what stage in life you are in. If you're young, you should try to develop wisdom, and my advice would be that, yes, wisdom can be had by older people who can tell you things, but, not everything can be told to you. So sometimes you're going to have to come up with your own wisdom. So that's one way. You observe the world around you, and then if you are an older person, once again, plan your life, understand your limitations, and depending on what age you are, you can, come up with a plan that helps put you on a type of lifestyle that you would enjoy, and you'll discover that as you usually when they're as a young adult, but really you'll discover who you want to be. Once you get older, you learn what you want to be, and then you just try to hopefully do live a life where you can be the person that kind of structure and think about what's important to you. Everyone is different. Everyone has different, the health, their situation, everything is different. Everyone is different. So you really, need to customize your life so that you're doing what you think best suits you. And so I don't necessarily think there is one answer. And I would say, for a lot of people that means college, that means, saving up money, at a job, they seem like a lot of good advice for most people, I would say. And so, but yeah, it's just an interesting topic that I have thought about. And so